Chapter 14 discusses finding, citing, and integrating sources. And I think a chapter like this can be really inundating because there's a lot of information, a lot of things to think about, and a lot of things to know. So I'm going to have this video. You've got the reading in the textbook, and then I'm going to give you a number of videos from the library to help you in this. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, I'm sorry, but this is really important stuff, and I will try not to add too much fuel to the fire here and just hopefully clarify some important things. And as I've said a million times, if you need help or have any questions, just let me know. So just a few key aspects of research I wanted to mention. The first one being that the more recent the sources you find, the better. People put a lot of weight on when sources were published, especially given what kind of topic it is. I deal with literature and composition and education and those kind of things. So for me, older sources aren't such a big deal because ideas are ideas no matter when they come up. But if you're dealing in science or especially technology, that can be problematic. So depending on what your topic is, you're always going to want to go recent no matter what. You want recent scholarship about your topic, but in some topics it's not so bad to go back. So just be aware of what your topic is, and again, just be aware, because I was doing some research about technology and I found a book that was published in 1994, Technology between 2013 and 1994 are a little different. So in something like that, time is a huge element to look at. The best bets that you can have for research ever are books and scholarly journals. Pretty much if it can be found in a library, that's what you want to focus on. Ignore the internet, other than a searching tool through a library. That's totally different. I'll get to that. But really, if you're not going through a library resource, stay away from it. I don't even want to know what kind of research people are being taught in high school and middle school. So yeah, it's a different standard in college. Don't use the internet. Don't use .coms. Don't use Wikipedia. Don't use anything like that. You need to start using books and scholarly journals. It's time to get in the library. It's not painful, I promise. Just get in there, charge it, and you'll be fine. Mostly because of this element right there. You want credibility. You want credibility for yourself because the sources that you choose directly reflect you, as I said in the video for chapter 13. But also, you have to have credible sources. If you're citing crap sources in your paper, guess what it does to your paper? You have to have credible sources. And that's why I say that your best bets are through a library. There are even some books that I've read that I'm like, wow, how on earth did you get published? So you can't just use that as a safety net and think, oh, it's a book, it's good. You still have to make sure that they're credible. Same with journals. You have to make sure that they are scholarly journals, that they're peer-reviewed, which means that the articles are submitted to a journal, and then the journal sends them out to a panel of scholars. That's why it's called peer review. It's like your friends looking at your work, and if you're all really smart, that's a good thing. So these articles are sent out to peers of your area of study, and if they approve it, you get published. So you're going to want to look for peer-reviewed scholarly journals. It just helps make sure that it's not one editor with an agenda of some type trying to publish a bunch of stuff for a particular reason. That's why peer review is good. But really, if it comes through a library, more than likely it's credible, but you still have to be careful. You always have to go back to the credibility of your source. Otherwise, it's greatly going to damage the credibility of your writing, and it's going to make your argument collapse. So it's very important. Web-only sources can be tricky. So when I say that it's not okay to have an internet source, I mean web-only, which means it's a website. and that's not to say that every website is bad, but it's really hard sometimes to determine the credibility of that website. The textbook gives some really good steps for finding that, for finding the credibility of a website. So if you are absolutely determined to use some website in the future, because you can't in my class, but use those steps and it can help you. I always just say avoid them. That's why I just ban them altogether. Excuse me. So the difference between a website and a journal that you find online is that journal is printed before it's put online, or simultaneously, but you will find that journal in print. If you go to a bigger library at a university, you will find a ton of scholarly journals in paper form. But if you're at a smaller school, you have to go through an online database in order to access that material. It's the same thing. It's not a website. Okay, don't get confused about that. A website's a .com or .org or .edu. .orgs and .edus are a little better, but I still want you to be careful of them. Again, because of the credibility thing. So online journals that you find through a library or through a database are okay because they were printed, and it goes back to the same peer review stuff. You know that those journals are more than likely going to be fine, and just because you found it online doesn't mean that it's a website. Does that make sense? So there are web-only sources and there are online databases. Databases good, websites negative. I can't say they're bad, but in this class you can't use them. A word about Wikipedia. I don't want to be another teacher who demonizes Wikipedia, but certainly don't ever cite it in your college level papers ever. You should know better than that, really, no matter what you've learned. That's, to me, common sense, but like I say, I don't want to know what high schoolers are being taught about research. And a lot of my students are coming back to school after a really, really, really long time, really long break. And, you know, by that I mean maybe even 10 years, because technology moves so quickly that even if you're out of school for 5 or 10 years, you can come back and go, wow, what on earth happened? How do I research this stuff? So I know that the web can be inundating. So I don't mean to demonize Wikipedia, but still, you should know better. Wikipedia is a place where anybody can write anything, and as far as I've never had a problem with them. But here's my caveat to Wikipedia. Don't ever cite it in a college paper or any paper, but use it as a helpful reference. When I was doing my graduate work, my thesis advisor, a person I truly, truly respected, always said, oh, if you need to, go to SparkNotes. They'll help you, because what SparkNotes is like Cliff Notes, if you're not aware. It helps give like plot outlines and things to books, and this is why. SparkNotes will give you the plot of a book. It will not help you analyze the book. Yeah, it may give you some symbols and things like that, but they're shallow. And to do true original thinking, SparkNotes really isn't going to help you. It gives you that first step of understanding the plot, but it doesn't do the thinking for you. And Wikipedia is the same way. It can help you get into a topic. It can help you find a topic. It can help you refine a topic. It can help you give you background information and places to look for sources, things like that. But it will not do the work for you, nor should you ever cite it, because it's such an unreliable text. Okay, so you can use it as a starting point, but don't ever use it as an ending point as a source in your paper. Does that make sense? So again, I'm not totally demonizing Wikipedia. I use it all the time when I want a basic understanding of something, but that's all that I'm looking at it for. If I want a quick definition of what Romanticism is, I can go to Wikipedia and have no problem with it. But if I were to write a paper about Romanticism, I would never, ever use Wikipedia. So I hope you can see the difference. Don't use it as a source, but use it as a starting point with a topic. Then it's perfectly okay. The book gives some good information about plagiarism, and I really don't want to say a whole lot about it because it's a negative thing, because it is cheating. But my biggest, not fear, but my biggest concern for my students is that you don't commit plagiarism accidentally. And you do that by not having sources in your Works Cited page. You do that by not having in-text citations for the either summaries, paraphrases, or direct quotes that you use from a source. You do it by having the information incorrect. That's all plagiarism. Whether it's intentional or unintentional, it doesn't matter. It's still plagiarism, and you have to be careful about it. So I hope I don't have to worry about you being cheaters on purpose. I mean, I never think of my students wanting to do that. But you have to be careful of the accidental cheating. So if you're concerned about something in your sources and you have all this information about a book and you don't know where it goes, more information is better than less. Less gets into the territory, or can get into the territory, of plagiarism. So if you don't know, more information is better. If you don't know if you should put in-text documentation or in-text citation after every sentence or at the end of a paragraph, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, when it comes down to plagiarism, have it in there as a safety net. Really, if you have a paragraph that you are quoting, like summarizing extensively from one source, really you only need the in-text citation at the end of the paragraph. But if you're worried about it, put it throughout the paragraph, and that's fine. That's a much better problem to have than not having any in-text citation. Does that make sense? So my big thing with plagiarism is to make sure that you don't do it unintentionally, because that's the majority of what happens when students plagiarize. It's an accident. So more is better in terms of information. Excuse me. And if you have any concerns about it, just let me know. But it's not like I'm out there with a microscope, waiting for anybody to make the smallest mistake. But if I see something that could count as plagiarism, I'll let you know. Not because you're in trouble, but because you need to be aware, because sometimes it might get you in trouble. Okay, so hopefully this helps at least a tiny bit of regarding sources. Hopefully the resources online help you out, and that the textbook can clear some things up. And always, if you have a question, let me know.